Reading from the book of Matthew, chapter 28, verses 1 through 10. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary of Magdala came with Mary to inspect the tomb. Suddenly there was a severe earthquake, and an angel of God descended from heaven, rolled back the stone, and sat on it. The angel's appearance was like lightning, with garments white as snow. The guards shook with fear and fell down as though they were dead. Then the angel spoke, addressing the women. "Don't be afraid. I know you are looking for Jesus, the crucified, who is no longer here. Jesus has been raised, exactly as it was foretold. Come and see the burial place. Then go quickly and tell the disciples that Jesus has risen from the dead, and now goes ahead of you to Galilee. You will see Jesus there. That is the message I have for you." The women hurried away from the tomb with awe and great joy and ran to carry the good news to the disciples. Suddenly Jesus stood before them and said, "Shalom." The women came up, embraced Jesus' feet, and worshiped. At this, Jesus said to them, "Don't be afraid. Go, tell the disciples to go to Galilee, where they will see me." This ends the reading.
As I hinted just a few moments ago, many years ago, I used to spend part of my summer on study leave in Berkeley, California, at the Graduate Theological Union, a consortium of seminaries and divinity schools. And I'd stayed in various places. But finally, I got to stay in the Episcopal guest house of the Episcopal Divinity School of the Pacific. I had admired this beautiful brick building up in the hills of Berkeley by the bay. And once I had my key and made my way with excitement, I put the key in, turned it, opened the door, and before me was a huge sign, "By the order of the state of California, warning. This is an unreinforced masonry building. In case of earthquake, bodily harm or even death may occur." Suddenly, I didn't feel so lucky. The appearance was beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, there were steel beams jutting out in different directions, and my room on the second floor tilted inward. But I reminded myself, hoping for not an earthquake, earthquakes are natural. They happen. They happen all the time across the earth. Often they're so minor, just devices pick them up. But we know from Turkey and Syria, earthquakes can be dangerous. At least in my lifetime where I've been, I've never really experienced an earthquake. A slight rumble once in Nicaragua, but nothing to have worried about. For me, what startled me even more than the warning and being at the Episcopal guest house was actually in Chicago. One morning early in January, the sun was not up, and the noise was so loud, the rumble, it seemed as if my apartment on the top floor would shake off the building. And then there was flights of blue. It was a thunderstorm in the middle of winter, or as they would say, Thundersnow. For I threw open the blinds, and out to the west you could see the storm moving closer with the bolts of lightning, the roaring thunder, and the largest snowflakes I had ever seen. Now, earthquakes are more common than thunder snow. It's rare. They say one of the rarest weather phenomena, but it does happen. And what I love about the Easter story today is there's an earthquake, and then there is lightning and angels, an angel the color of snow, and The message is to those women, do not be afraid. But honestly, they do not seem to be the ones afraid. They're unfazed by an earthquake that rolls a stone away, an angel with lightning and appearing whiter than snow. The ones that are afraid are the men. It's not the disciples either. It's the Roman guard, the garrison that had been put there, and they fall to the ground as if they were dead. Now, Easter surprises us. And, of course, we celebrate the joy of this day. But if you think about it, Easter is unnatural. It's probably seems more rare than even Thundersnow. Episcopal priest and preacher Barbara Brown Taylor makes the point that Easter is not the type of natural transformation of a seed or a bulb coming to flower. And we should remember, even though we rejoice at the beauty of flowers and Easter and pray for no more snow, in the southern hemisphere, the days are getting shorter, the snow is on the horizon, for Easter happens wherever we might be, and Easter is unnatural. Barbara Brown Taylor goes on to say, quote, resurrection is entirely unnatural. When a human being goes into the ground, that is that. You do not wait around for the person to reappear and you can pick up where you left off. Not this side of the grave, anyhow. You say goodbye, you pay your respects, and you go on with your life as best you can, knowing that only place springtime happens in a cemetery is on the grave, not in them. End quote. Even in the unnaturalness of what Easter may be, we still long for Easter, for the hope for what might be. Often at Easter, people will say, death itself is no more. But perhaps the language we should use is the power of death has been conquered. For you see, we know that loved ones pass and die, and we know that that heartache may be there forever. But we also know that the power of death can be conquered, not death itself in our own lives, but there are still those glimmers of hope, those who support us along the way. It's this ongoing process or a series of moments in which new life breaks through into what had seemed to be hopeless situations. And I say on this Easter, thank God for those women who are not afraid. For you see, Easter, as Christians, should remind us that life is for all. For it is in all four Gospels. The evangelists of Easter are the women, not the men. It is the women who go out at night to a grave. It is the women who are charged to go tell the men that Jesus is risen. I imagine on that first Easter day, the women did not expect an earthquake or angels, but they made their way tentatively where they had laid their friend and teacher. But there was the surprise. Dorothy Sayers wrote in an essay nearly 100 years ago called Are Women Human? ? She wrote this: perhaps it is no wonder that the women were the first at the cradle and the last at the cross. They had never known a man like this man, Jesus. There never has been such another, a prophet and a teacher who never nagged at them, never flattened or coaxed or patronized, who never made arch jokes about them, never treated them either as the women, God help us, or the ladies, God bless them, who rebuked without quarrelsome and praised without condensation, the women who took their questions and their arguments seriously. Jesus, who never mapped out their sphere for them, never urged them to be feminine or jeered at them for being female, who had no axe to grind, who took them as he found them and was completely unself-conscious. There is no act, no sermon, no parable in the whole gospel that borrows its pungency from the female perversity. Nobody could possibly guess from the words and deeds of Jesus that there was anything funny about women's nature. For you see, my friends, the surprise of Easter is resurrection. But the surprise for a world often filled with patriarchy, it's the women who bring life about in so many ways and remind us that Jesus is risen. Even centuries of dogma and male leadership, and including periods where power explicitly sought to oppress and silence women, could be no more. For even close to this area, the first woman preacher was born out in Henrietta, the first woman to be ordained, who's one of our forebears in the United Church of Christ. The woman's voice has been uplifted. And now this is not unnatural. Women have voices, and we all have voices to share, no matter where we find our stations in life. But remember this, the thing that is unnatural is Easter. For Easter changes things. It's an ongoing process, a series of moments in which new life breaks in to what had seemed hopeless situations. Easter is unnatural, but guess what? It does happen. Amen.